Our next guest, by the way, and we'll talk to some folks who are on the phone waiting to get in the conversation as well, but I really wanted to kind of jump in. I gave you his bona fides before we went to the break. It's one of our favorite people in the world. We're going to start highlighting veterans affairs, veterans in journalism, veterans in information on our Friday show. There's a lot of other platforms that do that on a regular basis, podcasts and all that kind of stuff. But we also want to give you guys options for places that if you are veterans, you can go to get resources. We want to give you options of stuff you can listen to, because we're big fans, by the way, over here of if there's something else you like, go listen to it, especially on our recommendation, and then come back and listen to us some more over on the Tube of You. This guy is a friend of not only myself, but of Radio Nemo, of Fastport, and of my father. And it is great to welcome our good friend, Colonel Rocke. How are you? Adam Rocke. I am a rock. I am an island. How you doing?
Well, good morning, Jimmy. You make me feel motivated this morning to want to raise my right hand and re-enlist, I guess, because you got me fired up.
Where are you talking to us from now?
Yeah, I'm still here in Northern Virginia, live in Lorton, retired out of the Pentagon a number of years ago and just stayed in Northern Virginia to raise my family. But there's a lot that goes on here in the Washington, D.C. area, so this is where I can do my best advocacy for our veterans, so this is a great place to be. I did want to tell you this, though. Congratulations on the new show and the radio, the station, the Fastport station. Congratulations to you and all your success. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you, my friend. And when we were putting, when our good friend Mr. Bentley and I, who by the way is at 38,000 feet and streaming and listening to us as we're speaking these words, he and I, really excited about putting together an opportunity to talk to a lot of folks that work and live and have lived in your sector of the universe, and we thought there'd be no better place to start than with you. I do want to tell this story though because it's so much fun because you have a habit of gravitating towards and finding veterans everywhere. I don't know if you heard, but this morning, the last Friday of the month for me is a really important one because my mother and father, all 81 and 82 of them respectively, wake up really early because my dad still serves on the Judiciary Review for the Louisiana State Supreme Court. Once a month he goes down there and he reviews, complaints and questions that are there for judges and decides if they have any merit. And it's so good to have him vibrant. You and him got a chance to strike up a friendship over in Alabama. And can you tell everybody that story a little bit?
I sure can. I'm so glad that you brought this up because I actually had it as a handwritten note that I really wanted to give your dad a shout out because I was inspired by him as well. So it was an absolute honor to meet him. He is a true soldier for life. It was an honor to give him the Soldier for Life lapel pin that I proudly wear as well. But, it's gentlemen like your father who have paved the way for people like me to continue to serve and want to serve. So if we look at your father as an example of service and sacrifice, and then the family, your mother who came alongside him, it was an honor to meet her as well. But, and that's why I served, I looked at him as an example. I looked at folks like that as an example and said, the service in the uniform is something I want to do. And that's why I continued to do that for 34 years. And what he's doing, what you just said now for the judicial review and still giving back in some way is remarkable because those service members, those veterans that files he's looking at, they just need a fair shake. So somebody like your father with his expertise to do that is just exactly what we want our young men and women to continue to do. Serve in their community as soldiers for life or service members for life. Doesn't matter what service you are, but keep serving in some capacity. So it was just a pleasure to meet him.
Yeah, and it made me think of you, by the way, when they were getting up this morning, they were getting ready because he was going through some case files and talking to stuff with my mom, and they were kind of going back and forth about some of the decisions that he has to make and all of that. And I kept thinking about the fact that, as I was getting ready to making my own notes about talking with you, it's really important for you. And I wanted to ask you, do you think it's part of not just reintegration, but a sense of spiritual healing when service members involve themselves in their community? Because my dad, 82, doing the judicial review this morning, will go to physical therapy later on in the day to keep working out, and then be a member of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the organization he belongs to, before going to a trivia night. And all of those things, as simple and fun as they sound, they really remind people who served that not an obligation, but a way to really kind of heal, I think, and also remind themselves what they enlisted for in the first place is to be active members of their communities. You're a big believer in that. Do you think it actually also can heal people who bear wounds or bear trauma or bad memories, that the reintegration is also a very part of the mental component of coming back into the world?
No, 100%, Jimmy. And that's just another great question here, because what we want is we want our young women who volunteered to serve, right? We're all volunteer service. No one joined the military to put themselves in a worse position when they get out. So we want them to land successfully. We want them to go back to their communities. We want them to be an integral part, either a teacher, coach, mentor, be successful in their military careers, be an entrepreneur, whatever their hopes and dreams are. I think they are expected to go be successful. We want them to be successful, but it does give them a sense of purpose. So I always tell folks, Jimmy, and you've heard me say this before, when you are deciding it's time to get out, you got to figure out what it is you want to do, where you want to go, and potentially how much money you want to make. And then you got to pursue that vigorously, right? You got to have a mission. You got to have a mission and focus. Otherwise, you will be unsuccessful, and we want you to be successful. So that's the beauty of what we're doing in our military now with the transition, as you alluded to, is, we want these young men and women to be successful and land softly so they can really take off. So the programs that we have incorporated are just remarkable. Everything from the Skill Bridge program, which allows them to get an internship or on-the-job training prior to getting out. Organizations like Fastboard, as you mentioned, or that are taking care of our veterans and helping them build their resumes and find job placement, so on and so forth. And there's just a lot of other organizations out there. So for our service members to get involved, continue their mission, and serve in their communities is vital. It's important, frankly, to our national security, because we want them to be successful.
Adam, I'm going to give you a hypothetical, and I'm going to unpack it slowly enough to actually give you a chance to respond, as opposed to just dumping like a mass tack on top of you. So, okay, so a kid goes into the military, and we're going to say a kid wanting to become a man goes in at 18 years of age. That person does their full 20, so they get out at 38. You and I have talked about this. A lot of people feel like they are old men or old women, only to realize that in the real world, they've got their whole life ahead of them. So let's just say that they're going to do their 20, and they've done 15 years already, so they're rolling in 35, 36, and they're getting ready to kind of do their 20 and then move on into civilian life. They come to you and they sit down, they want to have a cup of coffee. What do you tell them in regards to, like I said, and you notice I didn't say it's the last day of service. I'm giving them some prep time. What do you tell that young man or young woman who think that they're an old man or an old woman? What do you tell them about what's available to them and how they can go about setting their life into motion to make the transition to reintegrate and become part of the action of American life?
Well, the first thing I tell them, Jimmy, especially if they're going to retire, you use the example of 20 years, so we'll say a retirement and a cup of coffee. I say, first thing I'm going to tell them is you're just about to enter your next best chapter of your life, because retirement really is great. You don't have to continue to serve in uniform to be a patriot and serve our country. So finding your next mission is exactly right. So I tell them a couple of the things that you just heard me say, though. What is it you want to do? Where do you want to live? And how much money you want to make? Because if you're deciding what it is you want to do at the last minute, that's when you're not going to be successful. But if you can pin down what it is, generally what you want to do, and pursue vigorously those skill sets. So if you needed to get a credential, if you needed to get a license, right, you needed to upskill yourself to prepare yourself to be successful, that's what I tell them that they need to do. And then they need to vigorously pursue them. And there's a lot of organizations out there for our veterans and those transitioning service members that will provide a lot of this certifications for free. So they should decide what it is that they want to do, go get the vocational training, or continue with a 4-year college degree or beyond, and then go pursue the job opportunity. And again, there's lots of free organizations out there like Fastboard again, and some others that will help you with your job placement.
I'm going to do something here. Like I said, this is a new format, so we do this on a regular basis, Adam, and we'll get back to some more questions with our good friend Adam Rocke, who is retired, but yet still very active and still serving his community in so many ways. Our good friend Jody is calling from Indiana. Just wants to say good morning and hello and touch base. Hey, Jody, tell the good Colonel hello.
Good morning there, sir. Hello. How are you? And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Joey. Thanks for calling in, too.
You know, I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about, but everything that you were just talking about it makes me think about my brother. My one brother served from 67 to 72 in the 101st. You know, and my other brother served from 67 to 70 in the Navy. You know, so and my brother that was in the 101st, I mean, he went through some pretty hard times. So he does a lot of volunteering down in Florida, you know, for the veterans, and plus he leans on them a little bit for support, you know. And even though I never served, I try to hit as many museums as I can, you know, and buy little things here and there because it goes towards things for veterans. I mean, I try to do what I can do, even though I look at it as not much, but it, you know, at least it's something, you know. So because you know, my heart really goes out to the veterans. No matter what they did, peacetime, wartime, you know, without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. Without men and women like you, like yourself.
Adam,
You know, that's just the bottom line.
Adam, I wanted to ask you, since Jody's here and he's brought up the fact that he has brothers who are living. Of course, you know, you and I have talked about my Marine brother who has gotten his life back on track. What can we do as family members and as friends when we have people who either come out of the service or people who are trying to reintegrate, as family members, as spouses, as brothers and sisters, as first cousins, and all that kind of groovy stuff? What do we do to help these men and women get back into the action of the fabric of American life?
Well, first of all, Joey, I appreciate the call, and thanks to your brother's service as well, especially the one in the 101st. I'm obviously a little bit biased towards the Army, but the Screaming Eagles back then, but even the Navy, okay? And so, you know, service comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors, too. And I wanted to tell you, Joey, though, it's not about wearing the uniform. It's what the little things that I think you're doing. One, honoring your brother's service and their sacrifice. You said going to visit museums and those types of things, and just staying involved is so vital. So, you know, what we for the Vietnam era though is really important to me, Jimmy, and I'll tell you why. Because when they came back from service, it's not like it was today, right? You got your DD-214, you might have got a bus ticket and a duffel bag, and then you went back to reintegrate on your own, right? But all the programs that I just talked about and even mentioned, there's so many more that are out there. That wasn't there when your father and Joey's brothers came back from the Vietnam War, right? They went back to their hometown probably and just tried to fend for themselves and find a job. Some took advantage of the GI Bill, but now we have programs that are designed to help you transition. All right? And when they fall through the cracks nowadays, I feel terrible because there's almost no way for them to, they shouldn't fall through the cracks, right? We got to help them navigate to this success. They got to motivate them. You talked about something before too, though, about finding your next purpose and your next mission in life. You know, there's a lot of service members, even from the Vietnam era, who are suffering in isolation right now. And that's what we got to do. We got to reach out to them. So back to Joey's point is, if you're a family member, if you're a dependent, if you're a civilian who wants to get back in some way, reach out to those service members, reach out to those veterans. Doesn't matter what era, but they might be suffering some serious challenges in isolation. So just bring them into the fold. And I'll touch on one other thing, Jimmy, is the importance of the American Legion and the VFW and what they do for those communities. They're in every community, all right? So if you have a veteran that needs help, take them on down to the American Legion and the VFW. And there's a whole bunch of folks there are just willing to, you know, sit down and talk to them and give them resources and help them into their next best chapter of their life.
By the way, Jody, we do this thing, Adam, where we ask people if they could go on any road trip they wanted to, and they had about a week and a half to 2 weeks just to kind of do what they wanted to do and go where they wanted to go. Jody actually would get on a motorcycle and go across a couple of states, and his destination points would all be military museums. He would actually track all the veterans and military museums along the route that he was at, and he would use them as his stopping points as he took his journey further down the road. I also wanted to ask you, I've been dying to ask you this question because you and I have done some traveling together. Speaking of traveling, by the way, Tara on YouTube just reached out to say, "Hi, Adam. Thank you for the tour of D.C. during my first time there. A memory I won't ever forget." I got that in there for her. But what would you do? What would you do?
Well, first of all, it's ironic that you talk about museums, both of you, and military museums, because today I was going to spend a couple hours visiting the Marine Corps Museum at Quantico. My father was a Marine raider on Iwo Jima in 1942, and I want to honor his service and sacrifice. And since I'm an entrepreneur and working independently, I don't really have office hours. I've got time this afternoon to go down there and see that, and that's what I was going to do today. But that's the first thing. But my journey would probably, buy a van and travel the United States, just like Jody's done and you have done, and see there's some tremendous historic sites and a lot of the museums, probably from coast to coast.
Jody, thank you for the call, my brother. It's good to hear your voice. And as soon as you get that motorcycle revved up and you're ready to take that veterans tour, I either want pictures or I want an invitation. Thanks for the call, Jody.
Hey, not a problem. I must say this: the one museum that I'm dying to hit, and it's down there in Florida, is down there at Camp Blanding. I drive by it all the time on one of my routes, but I'm dying to get in there with everything that they have sitting on the deck. I am just dying to get into that museum. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. I mean, it doesn't look like it's much, but it looks like there's plenty, if that makes sense.
I would. Yeah, Jody. When I was in college and going through in the Army Reserves, Camp Blanding is with my duty station every month. So yeah, it's a neat spot and a neat museum. I hope you get down there.
Thank you, Jody. Good to hear you.
Unfortunately, I drive by it all the time. But all right, Jimmy, I'll call you back a little bit later when Lindsay's on.
Thank you, sir. We hope we hear from you then, too, as well. And that's the other thing, too, Adam. I want to remind people that when you go to military museums, because, you and I have been to the Veterans Museum and Memorial up in Ohio, one of the things that's so cool is it's not just a matter of seeing the museums, but the people that work there are often veterans who have great stories to tell as well, too, right? It's not just a matter of going there for the history that's kind of in the cases, but you get a chance to talk to people, and you're a big believer in that. That's how you and my father became friends. You really you see somebody has served, and you want to know their story, right? It's the first great place to start any conversation with a veteran. Tell me what you want to tell me about your story, right?
Yeah, it is really, thank you for saying that as well. And I'm just probably more sociable and extroverted than most people are.
A little bit.
I really just care about those soldiers. And hearing back to your father again, just spending 5-10 minutes with him one-on-one and learning about his stories. And they're all different. We all have different stories of how we served. In my particular case, in uniform, I'm focused on, but they're just amazing stories. So, and it really helped shape the people that they are today. And I always like to also hear about what they did after their service. So, your father becoming a lawyer and now continuing to do judicial reviews, I just think that career path is just remarkable. So I'd almost rather speak to the young soldiers and the young privates than I would the senior leaders, because I know they'll probably go on and be successful. I got it. You got a college degree and so on and so forth. But the young soldiers who are trying to make it in life, I think their stories are just remarkable. And I just never forget, those are the ones who really helped us accomplish our mission, especially overseas when I was deployed on a couple of occasions. But those are the ones who were the just making it happen for us.
You talk about the idea you work as a consultant, and I know a lot of people seek your advice and all that stuff. I was kind of curious though, and I'm noticing this, by the way, because you asked my father to speak when I got the award in Anniston, and it's the same thing with him. He got up there. Remember, we asked him to speak, and rather than speaking about himself, he talked about my mom and the sacrifices that she made during the Vietnam era of having to have raised 3 little boys while he was off doing his job. And every time that you speak or get a chance to talk, it's always about somebody else. I wanted to kind of ask you, though, and I realize I'm never going to get you to talk about you precisely, but I'd love you to tell people what you're working on now, what's your particular passion. Is there anything that you're focused on right now, websites, programs that you want people to really focus on?
Yes. I call myself an extreme advocate for our veterans and their military families, I guess I could say, because I am just devoted to it in so many ways and so many platforms. But we have a leadership company, and it's interesting that the leadership company, we're dabbling in entrepreneurship with some folks. So there's 4 partners. Relationship was forged on the battlefield seriously in 2006 during the surge. One went on to be a 4-star general, one a 1-star general, and then 2 colonels there. And it's called FMR Leadership Solutions. So at fmrleadership.org and is our website. But it's just about helping companies be successful, whether it be leadership alignment, culture, or strategy. But I'm still involved in a lot of other skill bridge programs like Airstreams Renewables, which provides vocational training to transitioning service members. We're on 8 locations. Obviously, I'm a huge proponent of anything that Passport and Brad Bentley and Bill McCunnan do. As a matter of fact, Jimmy, when I retired out of the service, the first person to hire me, as you well know, was Brad Bentley and Bill at Passport, and I worked for them as their veteran advocate. But interestingly enough, my daughter, Emily, now works for them. So she has the bug, and she helps our young service members who are transitioning, prepare to transition and connect them with job opportunities. And then I would just give you one more. There's the Troops First Foundation is one that I met on the battlefield in 2009. They were reintegrating some wounded warriors there. Mr. Rick Kells is the founder and the CEO of Troop Patriot. But we have an initiative called the Warrior Call Initiative. And this is the last thing I'll tell you. It's about the buddy check, if you will. If you have a service member out there that's suffering in isolation, we want to prevent veteran suicide, right? It's the Warrior Call Initiative. And every day is really a Warrior Call Day, but every year, the first Sunday after Veterans Day is National Warrior Call Day. We had it passed, the resolution passed in the House and the Senate, and it's really just to stand up and make a pledge that I will reach out to my buddy, call and make sure they're okay, and if they're suffering, I'll find them the appropriate help that they need. So those are the things that I'm involved in now.
I want to let people kind of know this again. It's fmrleadership.com, FMR Leadership Solutions. They partner with mission-driven organizations to align leadership, culture, and strategy, creating systems that scale and leaders who lead with clarity. And that's one of the things, like I said, that's so important to you because we've talked a lot. Dave Nemo, another veteran himself, is obsessed with the idea of being able to differentiate between veteran-friendly and veteran-ready. And so much of what you guys are up to doing here is making sure that not just that they're welcoming to veterans, which is an important step, but once they welcome the veterans, do they have the infrastructure in place to onboard these folks, correct?
That's correct. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for correcting the website that I'm supposed to know too. You did correct to the .com. You are paying attention there, Jimmy. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Remember, last thing I'd tell you, and we are out of time, is remember what George Washington said: a nation is judged by how well it treats its veterans, right? So, and I think that's what we're all trying to do. And the fact that you are spotlighting veterans, thank you for having me on today as your first guest. What an honor. But you do that every Friday. That's really important, and it means a lot to me, Jimmy. And that's why our friendship is so fond. I'm so fond of our friendship because you do recognize those who served and sacrificed, like your father and who's came before you. So thank you for honoring them every Friday.
You're welcome. And by the way, there is the best video. We're going to see if we can dig it up of Adam and I watching a field goal tie the football game up of the Saints versus the Vikings at Tottenham Stadium. It is one of the funniest things. And this guy, literally in the middle of the game, took off his Saints jersey, and underneath he had a Vikings jersey right in the middle of the Saints section. Is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. My friend, it is so good to have you on here. Yeah. We appreciate you making the time. Go enjoy this wonderful weekend over in the D.C. area. We love you, Adam. We really do, man.
You too, Jimmy. Thank you very much, and tell your father I said hello.
I will do. Adam Rocke joins us, and we're going to be highlighting veterans every Friday here, all part of Fastport sponsorship of this wonderful studio.